Today I'd like to talk about the facial feature, the nose. And as we get started here, I've got my page of drawings I've done over the years. I want to talk about the don't do's before we talk about the things that I really do want you to concentrate on. And one of the don't do's is that a lot of people understand that there are sort of these lines up either side of the nose as they go into the eye cavity. And many times, a beginning drawing student will draw these lines like a column, as if they're the same width apart and parallel all the way up and very straight. And then the other thing is that sometimes they end up drawing them very darkly. And really, the only line work that you're going to use in the nose falls around the bottom of the nose and not necessarily up the sides of the nose. So while you can put guidelines there, you want them to be very light, because ultimately this entire part of the nose, across the bridge of the nose, is all just a gradual changes in value. So you don't want really strong line work there. We sort of understand with our cartoon nose here that we have nostrils, and then that we have the opening of the nostrils, the flare of the nostrils here. And so this is a little bit a very stylized version of a nose. I'd like to talk about the things I do want you to focus on with the nose. The way I start drawing a nose is to start at the bottom edge, and I start inside the nostril, and there's this sort of V shape. And depending on the piece of skin between the two nostrils, sometimes this is a very squared off shape, sometimes it's a little more V, sometimes it's actually a little bit wider. And we're all just a little bit different in this regard. And I draw that shape, and then I draw sort of the hooks that go around the outside flare of the nostrils. And you want to make sure when you draw this piece that you're actually leaving the thickness of the nostril itself. You want to show that thickness of the skin. And so I want to leave a little bit of space there as I draw that in, and then just let that come up on the side. Everything else is just gradual changes in value. Sometimes I like to start by noticing that there is sort of this highlighted area at the tip of the nose, and you can draw lightly around that if you want to make sure that you don't shade over it. And then I will begin some gradual shading up from the bottom. The underneath side of the nose is always darker than the top of the nose, and there's typically a highlight that runs up the center of the nose, leaving both sides of the nose a little bit darker as well. You can start by shading the inside of the nostril, and if you do that, you want to start at the upper edge of the nostril and shade away from it as you come down, because sometimes this value spills out onto the face. And again, if you want to include it, you can include shading of the philtrum below the nose. That's totally up to you. It does give a little bit of definition to the nose as you work your way up into it. But as you're shading the rest of the nose, you'll notice that there are typically two sort of indentations that fall along the side of the nostrils. And so you want to shade those valleys a little bit, and then work that shadow down underneath the bottom of the nose. And then you're gradually going to ease up on your pressure as you come to the outside of the nostril. Again, you can pick up at that outside edge. You want to shade away from any line work you're doing just a little bit. We don't want our nose to look like it's outlined at all. Okay. And then as you come up the nose, sometimes in young children, it will be a very flattened area. There won't be much difference there at all. Again, I want you to be using your scumbling technique. Please do not blend with your fingers or the blending stump. But you're probably going to have some sort of light value that bleeds out onto the face. and all the way up into the eye cavity, and then you're going to want to shade around this highlighted area down here more completely. So for your sketchbook, I do want you to draw a series of noses, 5 noses. They can be yours. They can all be yours. They can be different people's noses. I don't care, honestly, for this assignment, if you're finding noses of famous people. I do want you to be working from an image that is large enough for you to see the kinds of detail that you need. And I want you to be working at least life size, perhaps larger. And you're going to draw 5 noses, like I said, and I'd like them to be in a variety of poses. So you can have a nose that's straight on like this. You can have a profile nose. A couple of them in 3/4 view would be nice. 5 different views of the nose. They must be some straight on and some in profile. Thank you.